Kind of beautiful, huh? Just what I needed for my spirit. It's just what Jesus needed for his spirit too. Go find a mountain. Go create some time. Take some PTO if you got to take it, and climb that mountain. Go find yourself with God and seek God. Speak to God and be renewed. I'd be lying to you if I told you that I didn't have moments where I felt disconnected with myself, where I felt like my spirit, my soul, my brain, and my heart were all mashed up. They just weren't in alignment. Where I just felt like I didn't gel with a version of myself. And there's lots of reasons for this, right? We can get overwhelmed in this life by carrying so much baggage, so much history of pain and experience. We can just get stressed out, right, with the day-to-day of life. But it's really incredibly important that we do connect with ourselves. You know, Jesus gave us a model. And for all the talk of Jesus, we don't talk about the time that Jesus rested. You know, we don't talk about the time that Jesus secluded himself. We don't talk about the time that Jesus went out and sought God. We talk about the work of Jesus, right? And think about the Bible and think about Jesus and all the ministry that he did in just 3 years. All of the walking literally on his feet that he did from place to place, healing and teaching. All of the stress that he must have carried, having to carry all of this mission, having to deal with all of the adversity that he dealt with, having to deal with knowledge of an impending death. And yet in the face of all of that, Jesus didn't shrink. He didn't diminish himself. Somehow he managed to stay connected to himself. And friends, if you're anything like me, that's the struggle, right? It's really easy to walk through life, and it's really easy to accomplish things in life, to check tasks off. It's really easy because we associate our value with our productivity, right? I'm only valuable when I'm helping people. But that's not the truth. That's not the image that Jesus displayed, that you're only valuable when you're helping people. You are valuable when you're helping people, but you're also valuable when you're getting helped. You're also valuable when you're getting served. You're also valuable when you're taking time to replenish your spirit. That's a real hard thing for me because I do associate my worth with what I'm putting out. Associate my worth with output instead of how connected I am with myself and how connected I am with God. You know, sometimes the God piece seems easy, or at least we think it does. But how can we really be connected with God if we're not connected with ourselves? How can we connect with all of those people around us, those people that we love and care about, if we aren't actually connected with ourselves? You know, that disconnect in our spirits, it impacts all of the relationships in our lives. And sometimes those people have to push us out. They have to say, you know, go, take some time for yourself. Go replenish your spirit. Go reconnect with yourself. And so how do we do that? That's a big question. How do we do that? How do we reconnect with ourselves? Well, there's 3 steps to it. This is the model that Jesus laid out. The first step is to find time. If you're honest with yourself, this is sometimes the hardest thing that we have to do, because we pack all of these things on top of each other. We value time probably more than anything, but we probably waste more time than anything. And so the idea of taking some time, whether it be, 2 days, whether it be a week, whether it be a month, taking time truly to ourselves, truly to invest in that reconnecting with our spirits and that reconnecting with God, to take that time seems incredibly selfish. But it's not. Jesus gave us that example. Number 1, find time. Number 2, you have to create space, okay? You know this. You've lived through the pandemic. Just finding time doesn't necessarily give you the space that you need to reconnect. It doesn't give you the space that you need to decompress. It doesn't give you the space that you need to find God. You have to create space. You can't just go in another room in the house and somehow reconnect with your spirit because everything is super familiar to you. there's not enough space, there's not enough distance. So you have to create that space. For Jesus, he came and climbed up the mountain to create space. That's the thing I'm mimicking here on this little spiritual pilgrimage that I'm on at the moment is try to go find a mountain. And I'm not like Jesus. I'm not going to climb a mountain, but I'll come sit at the foot of the mountain. I'll stare at the mountain. I'll create space and distance. I'll put my phone down, disconnect from everything, and create space. That's number 2. And number 3 is the most powerful thing. Once you've found the time, once you've created that space, is ultimately you have to seek God. You can't just create the space in your life and say, okay, God, I'm ready now. It's not what Jesus did. Jesus found the time, he went up the mountain and he prayed. Jesus began the dialogue with God. And in that dialogue, so much growth happened, so much healing happened, so much reconnection happened. But we have to be willing to pursue God. We've got to be willing to seek God. And some of that journey is the actual climbing the mountain, right? Some of the journey is the actual sacrificing of time and energy. But some of that is actually starting the conversation with God, not being afraid to say, hey, God, I know I've been busy. God, I know my life has been cluttered. God, I know that I've been distant and disconnected. And God, I feel like I need to be recentered. I feel like I need to come to grips with who I actually am. Number 3, we have to seek God. And somewhere in the process of all of this, we end up finding ourselves. Because the truth of the matter is, you don't know who you are. You really don't. The person that you are is not the person that you really are. Not so much. It's the person that everybody else says that you are. Everybody else tells you that you are. We start performing. It's a natural thing. This people-pleasing way of living life where we start performing to be everything that everybody wants us to be. But friend, you can't be everything that everybody else wants you to be. You can only be you. And as we start to center ourselves, as we start to create that space, as we start to really commune and dwell with God, as we start to have those conversations, those holy and sacred conversations, somewhere in that space, somewhere in that pursuit, we grow to understand ourselves more. Somewhere in the beauty and the sanctity of that moment, we reconnect with spirits that were born of God, spirits that were ordained to be everything that we are. And in that reformation, in that rebirth, there is a restoration of our souls. There is a courage and an empowerment that we get to carry with us to be authentically ourselves and not be afraid of what other people might think, not be afraid that we are going to underserve people, not be afraid that we're not going to provide value, but trust that we are providing the most value by being our true and authentic selves, the people that God called us to be. Friend, I don't know what centering that you need for your spirit, but I do know that you do need to be centered. I do know that you do need to reconcile with the person that is inside of you. I do know that you need to find time. You need to create space and you need to seek God. And I promise you, on the other side of seeking God, on the other side of climbing that mountain and praying to God, that you're going to find who you actually are. For it's all that easy, and it's all that hard. Thanks for watching.
These are your talks, dictator. This is the hope of God set free. These are your talks.